been in this space for a while and you're struggling with weight, and when I say struggling with weight, I want you to imagine a struggle with more than 10 pounds. If we're really struggling with our weight, it is this fluctuation of something greater than 10 pounds. It could be 30 pounds up, 40, 50, 60, maybe even 100, and then back down. And so that is what we call a true struggle with weight. So if you're within a 10-pound weight gain or weight loss generally, and you're sort of in that range, that's not a major struggle. But if you're noticing that there's this constant on the wagon or off the wagon, there's this constant going to the extreme of one end and then the other end, then that's really more of a call to attention that there is something greater going on. And the reason, of course, is the nervous system, which we always talk about. So the deeper reason why we compulsively overeat is generally because we are trying to numb, or we're trying to soothe or cope with a particular emotion that we just don't know how to sit with. Welcome back, friends. I'm your host, Shaban, and with each episode, I am honored to be your coaching guide in the journey to make peace with food, fall in love with fitness, and ultimately yourself. My intention in each episode is to help you release the old story of who you are and step into the one you're always meant to be. We'll challenge conventional diet and fitness culture and understand the importance of tuning out all the shoulds they tell us to do and tuning into our own inner wisdom instead. What you focus on, you create more of. Through these conversations, you'll shift your focus from what you're supposed to be doing to who you want to be, so that health and fitness and ease around food is not just what you do, but who you are. And if you find that this conversation resonates with you today, then I want to invite you to join our free Make Peace with Food Facebook community at myfoodfreedomlifestyle.com, where you can connect with me and my team directly and access all the free trainings and resources we have for you so you can regulate your nervous system and make peace with food. And then also remember to share this episode with someone who you think needs to hear this today. The links are in the show notes. All right, now let's get into it. If you've been in this space for a while and you're struggling with weight, and when I say struggling with weight, I want you to imagine a struggle with more than 10 pounds. If we're really struggling with our weight, it is this fluctuation of something greater than 10 pounds. It could be 30 pounds up, 40, 50, 60, maybe even 100, and then back down. And so that is what we call a true struggle with weight, because it's actually quite normal throughout the year to kind of diverge with your weight in terms of, let's say, a 10-pound range. It'll be normal for you to go up a few pounds, come down a few pounds. And if you still have a menstrual cycle, it's completely normal also to experience that during the month. If you notice it's winter and maybe you tend to move a little bit less because you're living in a very cold place, or maybe you're retaining water also during these winter months, that could also be the reason. So if you're within a 10-pound weight gain or weight loss generally, and you're sort of in that range, that's not a major struggle. But if you're noticing that there's this constant on the wagon or off the wagon, there's this constant going to the extreme of one end and then the other end, then that's really more of a call to attention that there is something greater going on. And now diet culture, of course, tells us, hey, Sherry, get disciplined. Come on. You just have to move more. You have to eat less. Like, just get with it. Like, what's your problem? Like, discipline yourself. Have some self-control. And anyone struggling with emotional eating or binge eating knows that that's the most ridiculous comment and statement. Obviously, if I was able to just stop it, I would have stopped it. So there's clearly a reason why I have it. And the reason, of course, is the nervous system, which we always talk about. And I always want to remind you of this because I want to take away the fault. I want you to take away that sense of self-responsibility that maybe there's something wrong with you, that you're not trying hard enough, that you don't want it badly enough. And it's actually none of those things. So the deeper reason why we compulsively overeat is generally because we are trying to numb, or we're trying to soothe or cope with a particular emotion that we just don't know how to sit with. And why don't we know how to sit with this emotion? Well, it oftentimes stems from childhood, or it stems from certain life experiences where we were likely told, hey, we don't cry here, suck it up, life is already hard. Or maybe you were in an environment where you didn't have that emotional acceptance, or maybe even that space to be vulnerable with around parents. Maybe your parents were even absent. And as we have these conversations, by the way, I want to share that the goal here is not to blame our parents. It's not to point blame at circumstances. It's simply to understand without judgment why this is going on. If we did not have an emotionally validating environment at any time of our life, we had to learn what to do with this emotion. An emotion is just energy in motion. It's just energy. And if you know what energy looks like, if you've ever looked at a graph of energy, or my God, even back in pre-calculus or calculus when we were learning sine waves and cosine waves, remember it was a wave. There was a upward inflection and then a downward inflection, and it was a constant pattern of up and down. And emotion is the same way. Of course, when we experience an emotion, we're in the up. So let's say it's regret, or let's say it's sadness or loss or it's fear. With the moment we feel it, it's really up and we're like, oh, and we're in that state where we're thinking that this pain is so intense, this discomfort is so intense. And because we don't actually allow it to pass through us by either numbing it, storing it, avoiding it, or using something to cope with that feeling, then we tend to just trap that emotion. And what we've done over time is we've never really learned the tools to actually release this emotion, to actually cope with this emotion. And so some of these emotions that I'm sharing right now are very, very intense. And by the way, I do want to add here that one of the most common emotions that we actually have a hard time sitting with is boredom. Yeah, it's boredom. Because boredom is one of those emotions where, okay, I don't know what to do with myself. Like I got to busy myself. And we live in this society where it's very do, go, and we're very much judged for that. And if we're not doing something, then we're needing something to do. So we have to busy ourselves with our fingers, with our mouth, with our phone, with our eyes. We maybe call somebody. And so we actually have a hard time just sitting there and doing nothing. And so what's really also important to note is that every single one of these emotions that I shared that may bring you to compulsive overeating or binge eating or emotional eating is going to be very relative to the person. So your particular emotion may be boredom, while somebody else, it may be sadness, or for someone else, it might be stress or worry. And so I want you to get very, very particular around which one it is for you. But the real deeper reason behind why we tend to overeat is because we don't know how to sit in these emotions. And we tend to think that they're just going to be there forever. If we've lost somebody that we love, and I have shared with you the story so many times when I lost my mom, that was probably the peak height of any strong emotion I've ever experienced in my life. It was great sadness, it was great remorse, it was mourning, it was a lot of different emotions happening at the same time, and almost also a sense of peace and happiness and joy for her because she ended the suffering that she was going through for so many years. And so there was all these mixed emotions, but my goodness, was it intense. And although I thought I was coping with these emotions at the time, what I actually was doing was numbing them. So that was a time in my life where I was really getting onto my spiritual path and I was trying to be very accepting. But what I didn't realize is that the part of the acceptance is actually feeling these emotions. I wasn't doing that. I was actually distracting myself. So every time I felt sad or I wanted to cry, I was like, nope. I've accepted it. I'm not going to deal with it. And so I would just find myself getting busy doing something else. And that stayed with me for a long time, and actually drove a lot of my behavior. That was also the time in my life where I had the worst health issues. I actually had the worst gut health issues ever, and I did not know how to overcome them until I finally dealt with the loss of my mom. And so I want you to just take a moment here and reflect. What could really be behind these unwanted emotions? What could really be behind maybe this fear to experience them? So I know we're talking about eating behavior, but let's just take a one step back and talk about these emotions. What is it behind these emotions that feel like we can't handle them? And so is it fear that they'll just stay there forever? Is it fear that if we allow ourselves to feel stressed, we'll be stressed forever? Is it fear that we don't know what that emotion might actually physically do to us? Because perhaps on a very unconscious level, we feel like if we stay in this stress or we stay in this sadness, like someone just broke up with us or we just heard some really bad news, and if we actually stay in this emotion, could it actually harm us? So getting into that understanding of the why and really getting curious around why we're doing what we're doing instead of judging what we're doing is going to be our way out. Normally we just judge ourselves. We just kind of turn off, we go numb, we go through the cycle, we're overeating, and then only after the fact do we look back and say, oh my God, why did I do that? I can't believe I did that. What's wrong with me? And we go through all that self-sabotaging talk in the head, and we self-deprecate and we put ourselves down and we talk really, really, really nasty to ourselves. And so instead of judging, what if we actually approach it with a sense of love and curiosity? Sherry, why did you do that? What was behind that? What were you feeling? And then start to notice the patterns. Okay, every time you're feeling this, you're tending to do that. And what would happen if I actually just allowed myself to sit in that emotion? What would happen? Because remember, it's a wave. Energy is energy that is going to continue to travel, that's going to continue to move. It's not stagnant. And there is an upward inflection and a downward inflection. And if I'm feeling the intensity right now, if I just sit with it by breathing, by trying to relax, by trying not to avoid it, not turn on the TV, not call a friend, not just sit in that emotion and just breathe and breathe. And this is where now one of the tools that we teach and make peace with food starts to come in, diaphragmatic breathing. And there's so much power in breathwork. It's the big buzz right now. Everyone's talking about breathwork, even though this has been ancient conversations and magical tools to really help us restore our nervous system. And why breath is so important is because when we are in protection mode, that means when the body is geared up for survival, which is when we experience an unwanted emotion, all of a sudden our breathing changes. We start breathing more shallow. We're breathing up here. We're feeling tense. Our body starts to tense up. We're like, think about what would happen if suddenly there's a saber-toothed tiger chasing you, or you feel there's a sudden threat and you have to run as quickly as possible. Like there's a tree in front of you and you're trying to avoid it. You're going, you're breathing super shallow. But when we diaphragmatically breathe, when we calm our breath down, really expanding through the belly, and these are one of the techniques that we teach in our program, then you can actually start to shift your nervous system, and you can actually start to feel that emotion passing by, whether again that's boredom or stress or anxiety or any of the things that tend to drive you to self-sabotage. Remember that it's not about the food. It is not about the food. It's about the nervous system, and it's about what's really, really deeply here behind the unwanted eating behavior. What is driving the actual overeating is that tendency for us to avoid, to numb, to really avoid dealing with the things that maybe we now need to address. And so if this is something that resonates with you, if any of these things that I shared with you today has struck a chord somehow, I really, really want you to reach out and find out what could be behind the unwanted eating behavior. Now, there are many different ways that we can share with you to help you join Make Peace with Food. First of all, though, we want to know if you are a right fit or not. If there is a nervous system issue involvement, we want to know, and then Make Peace with Food can work for you. If it's something else, then we'll also let you know, and then we'll offer you other strategies to help you get on your journey. And remember, I'm always a resource for you. As I shared, there are many different ways to join the program. So I will see you here next week. And if you have any questions, let's reach out to the team and let's see how we can get them answered. You've got this. Thanks for listening to this episode. Whether you're already on your wellness journey or just getting started, we're in this together. If this has resonated with you today, I want to invite you to subscribe to the show so you never miss a beat. And if you know someone who could benefit from this conversation, then please share this episode with them. Let's work together to help as many people as possible make peace with food and fall in love with fitness. And also, don't forget to visit myfoodfreedomlifestyle.com to join the free Facebook group for more resources. Remember, you are an inspiration. I can't wait to hear your story. See you next time.